I recently asked a popular Facebook group for drummers about bad habits, and out of 165 responses, I came up with about 40 unique bad habits. From those 40, I organized it into 7 different categories. As I read through these bad habits, they really started to be almost like a list of guidelines for what it takes to be a good drummer. So in this video, it's bad habits good drummers avoid. Coming up. Hi, my name is Kevin Zahner, and if this is your first time on Rhythm Notes, please subscribe so we can help you level up your drumming and home recording today. We all have bad habits. Maybe we know about them and try to work on them, or maybe we don't even know about them until someone brings it to our attention. So in this video, we're going to go through some of the common habits that either annoy other musicians or, good drummers are working to break or to avoid completely. The first one is professionalism. Now, professionalism is what we want to strive to achieve, but within professionalism, there are certain sets of bad habits that we want to avoid. So one of the bad habits on the list is undercutting gigs. Undercutting gigs is a bad thing to do because it lowers the amount of money clubs or other bands will pay a gigging drummer for a gig. So it's important to look in your market and figure out what the value really is. You should figure that out, ask people, and then ask for more. The worst thing that can happen is they don't give it to you, but they know you want to add more value and you expect more value added to you as well. The second one for professionalism was noodling. Noodling while guitar players are trying to tune, and a lot of drummers during rehearsals are initially guilty of this because we're there, we're excited, we want to play. But the fact is, rehearsal is not about practice. Rehearsal is about playing through the tunes and developing those songs for performance. The next one under professionalism was like drumming on tables. I put this one under professionalism because it's just about noodling. It's more back to playing in between songs and playing while people are trying to talk and playing, maybe tapping on tables. It can be annoying. Grinding teeth to music was something. I've been known to click my teeth together from time to time, but it's not a good thing. It's not good for your teeth, but it's also apparently annoying to some people. Being lazy about gear. I remember playing a gig with my friend Alan, and he said, I'm just gonna bring my 5-piece to like every gig. And he had like a rack and 2 floors, kick and snare. And he's like, I'm tired of these drummers that just bring the 4-piece. The 4-piece is cool. In fact, a lot of gigs just need the 4-piece, but I thought about what Alan said and I realized, 4 drums, 4 cymbals is easy, but it's more inspiring sometimes to have the other tom or to have more cymbals. So don't be lazy about the gear. Bring the gear that you want to be inspired or that you need to play the songs. The next one on this list was not learning the tune well. Know the stops, know the hits, know the dynamics, know the style. These are all very important things for playing a tune. And the last one on professionalism was not engaging the crowd very well. Some people call this the Neil Peart syndrome, God rest his soul. Now, if you're Neil Peart, your playing is amazing. You're concentrating so well that it doesn't really matter whether you're looking out at the crowd and making eyes with people and all that, but not all of us are at that level. Make sure you're engaging with the audience. Look and see if they're dancing. If they're dancing, your drumming is making it happen. If they're not and they're all like out of energy and just lackadaisical, maybe you are too. So it's another thing you want to consider when it comes to professionalism. The next category is technique, and this includes things like over gripping the stick or having poor posture. If you want the full list of bad habits in the same categorization that I gave you today, I'll put a link in the description below to an article on rhythmnotes.net. Another thing that I saw often on this list of responses was not practicing enough to fix your weak hand, poor stroke technique, poor breathing, tensing up when playing faster, the angle and positioning of your drums, and poor fulcrum. Now, a lot of these technique issues, aside from the angle and positioning of the drums and maybe your posture, can be fixed with the definition of two strokes: your rebound strokes and your controlled strokes. It's also where you're going to finish your stroke. If you started down here, you'd have to raise the stick and then strike the drum, and it's still going to come back. If you stop the rebound, that's a different stroke, a controlled stroke, which will be in the next video. I'll put a link to those videos up here on the cards and down in the description below. But really, when it comes down to it, if you're not defining your strokes well and developing those strokes on the pad, working on your grip, working on your chops, working on relaxation, and thinking about the quality of sound that you get out of your drums at different dynamics, you're going to miss the boat completely. And those are definitely, habits you don't want to just let slide. Good drummers avoid becoming complacent about their technique. Now, also on the list was things like poor posture. Poor posture, like leaning or slouched over, can be a bad thing in the long run. Some drummers that have influenced me focused on doing ab workouts and focused on things like yoga. Some of those other exercises for your back really help your posture. It also helps to maybe flatten your snare or bring your drums up. Setting up your drums and cymbals in a certain manner can help with posture. Now, one of the bad habits that was on the list was the angle of your drums. Now, it's not the end of the world if you have your toms, angled like that. Like Nico McBrain has his ride cymbal like pretty much vertical. That's the way he does it. There's nothing wrong with that. If you do it that way and that's the way you're comfortable, no problem. But when it comes down to it, as long as you're angling your drums in an ergonomic way and you're able to move around the drum set comfortably and without having to contort your body or do any erratic motions, you're fine. You're not developing those bad habits. But think about those things if you want to be a good drummer. Now, the next categories are musicality and communication. And on this list, it's things like just drummers not listening to what they're playing, not listening to what other musicians are playing. You need to make sure that you're listening and taking in all of it so that you can interact with the music appropriately. Filling in too much, too many fills, maybe it starts to cover up the melody, cover up the lead lines coming from either the vocals or the guitars or keys. Every measure doesn't need a big fill. You don't need to throw out your best fills all the time. Like, save it, hold on to it. Most of the time, if you think to play it, don't play it. Let it come out as you listen to everything else and let it develop naturally. Playing too loudly, like in the case of ballads, or just having monodynamics all at the same time, we have one volume loud and that's it. You want to make a contrast so that the louds are exciting and the quiet parts are more subtle, and there's some sensitivity involved in that. It's musical. Playing to impress. We all like to impress ourselves, to impress others, but what you want to do is impress upon the music quality rhythms and phrasing and grooves that support the music and make the overall song better. Rushing when the music gets exciting, so the music gets really exciting and maybe it gets louder, and sometimes we rush. So it's simple. Play with the metronome. Practice with the metronome. I'll put a link to a video up in the cards and in the description below to different ways to play with a metronome. I'll also put a link to an article with different ways to play with a metronome in the description below. Repeating fills. Playing the same fill over and over. Like, you gotta come to the table with a variety of fills, and some of those fills could be like 1 beat long, 2 beats long, 3 beats, a whole measure long, bigger fills, but you have to come with a variety of different fills that are phrased on the snare drum, the toms, the kick and snare. Some of your fills should be sort of groove-centric, where you're just doing a little fill in the groove, and that's enough. So consider a wide range of fills. We often, as beginners especially, need to let go of the habit of a fun fill that just comes out every time because we have a limited vocabulary on the instrument. You want to develop those vocabularies and those different fills so that the right one comes out at the right time. Too technique heavy. Now this one came up a few times on the list, too technique heavy. I think sometimes we have to let it go a little bit. Technique's important. It's important for, perpetual improvement and playing well, to not ruin your body and getting great sounds from the drums, but it doesn't always have to be so mathematical. You can mess it up once in a while. Play a little messy. Play some dirt. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I think is what these drummers were talking about. Impatiently delivering a setup fill. I mean, if you want to look at setup fills, look at like Toto, Africa. Jeff Porcaro plays just a simple clave rhythm on that setup into the chorus, and then he does like maybe half of that fill going into the second one. It's very simple and it's very patient and there's plenty of space. Only respecting one genre, like jazz, like I'm just gonna play jazz, or if you're a reggae drummer, I'm just gonna play reggae. It's important to be able to play all of these different styles, and it's important to be able to explore these different genres. Even getting into classical and opera, some of that stuff can help you with your melodies. One of my first drum teachers had me play Frere Jacques on the drum set. I thought it was nuts, but then I realized, oh, he's teaching me melody and to tie what I'm playing on the drums with what I'm hearing in here, and to be a singer on the drums, to be a composer on the drums, and to be able to come up with new parts to new songs. It's important to be responsive to criticism. One of the habits that people develop, and this isn't just drummers, like a lot of people have this problem, including myself. We all go through this, where it's tough to take criticism. People will give you criticism, and I get plenty of it on this channel, of course, for what you're doing. And it's important to think first, what are they trying to help me with? There's usually some truth when people are criticizing you, and are they helping me? So like, is there any constructive bit to what they're saying? If there is, maybe there's a way to fix it. So how you respond to that criticism is everything. One of the bad habits that we have, like I said before, is communicating in terms of where we're looking. Maybe I talked about looking at the crowd and engaging with the crowd, but it's also about engaging with the musicians. You should be looking for cues from certain players, or trying to connect with them, so that when you're playing and they're playing, you're connecting as people. I mean, we are social, emotional learners, and we're only going to do better work by connecting with people face to face, eye contact, and even having our ears open for any sort of audible changes that might happen. Maybe we're going to take this solo 2 times longer than usual. Maybe we're going to cut it, go to a bridge. Maybe we're going to bring it down real low, and the singer's going to sing different lyrics. These things all happen with great bands. The next few categories for bad habits that good drummers avoid are practice routine, ability, and groove study. So let's talk about practice routine a little bit. Practicing difficult parts too fast. One of my favorite teachers, Neil Larrabee, always said, if you can't play it slow, you can't play it at all. Because some people thought, oh, I could just throw these strokes in there and play these flam taps or flam drags, if I play it faster. But that's not the case at all. If you can't play it slow, you're not playing it at all. So make sure that you bring things back, you play things slowly. You will develop strength and speed from playing things slowly. It sounds counterintuitive, but you will kind of carve those pathways in your brain better if you slow it down and gradually build it up in terms of tempo. Unfocused practice. Sometimes we have days where we're just all over the place. No problem. Do something that's all over the place, but then do it with the intent of getting it all out. Play a solo, play around your drums, whatever, and then you're going to get down to business. You're going to work on those things that you need to work on. Maybe it's for a gig, or maybe it's for your own personal development. If you want more ideas about practicing, go to practicedrumschecklist.com, and you'll get a list of ideas and some exercises to help you in your practice routines. Another habit on this list was expecting results without putting in the work. It's pretty straightforward. It takes work and lots of effort to have good results. There's no shortcut. There's no, the best drummers in the world are that way because they've been working on it a long time, and they work on it every day. So if you want to be good, it takes effort and focus and hard work. There's no way around it. And this is similar to another habit on this list, not practicing the things we don't know. Practice doesn't always feel good. Practice is vulnerable. Practice is messy. If it's not messy and vulnerable and doesn't sound like you're all over the place, you're probably not working on the harder things or the things that you don't know very well. The next category on this list of bad habits that good drummers avoid is ability, and one of the items on this list was hi-hat, hand, and foot dexterity. I actually did a video on hi-hat techniques, including some foot techniques, and I'll put it in the cards up here and link it in the description below. So when it comes to other abilities, maybe unable to play with a click, and I also put a video up there for probably the best exercise for developing time with the metronome relay. I put that up in the cards, and I also linked it in the description below. Another one for ability was poor bass drum independence. It's as simple as going through the basics on bass drum technique. You can play bass drum technique and hand technique, foot and hand technique through like accents and rebounds. You can do with other books like syncopation, but you have to start somewhere. Another one on this list for ability was developing a sense of different meters. You need to know the normal ones like the 4/4 straight meter, maybe even the march tempo meter, or even like the waltz. But you know, it's also important to look into the odd meters like 5/4, 3/8, 7/8. And you can look at drummers like Carter Beauford, who does an excellent job making these odd meters not feel so odd. Nice. Vinnie Colaiuta does the same thing. If you look at like 10 Sumner's Tales, there's a couple songs on there, and 1 in 5, 1 in 7, that sound great, and Vinnie's just keeping a steady beat, or he's playing accent patterns that don't seem odd over like 5. The last one on ability was right hand lead for everything. Make sure that you're opening up your lead hand. So your lead hand, if your right hand lead on a lot of things, when you're chasing that hand around the drum set, lead every exercise with your left hand. Lead your pad exercises with your left hand. Start everything with the left, and then before long, you'll train your brain to not think left hand on the cymbal every time, or right hand on the cymbal every time. You'll start to use your left and start to use, left around the drums. Look at Ringo Starr. He actually led his fills with his left hand, and it makes those fills sound very different. So there's another little bit of a study that you could do. I could probably do a video on that in the future here. So the last category of bad habits that good drummers avoid is groove studies. So groove studies is something good drummers do. You don't want to just stick to the same old grooves that you normally do. And sometimes it means, not forgetting that you're the timekeeper. You're the timekeeper. Keep the time. Keep the time in the proper style. Keep the time with the bass player. You're both timekeepers essentially, like all the rhythm instruments, guitar and piano, for example. Don't take a groove for granted. Don't take any of this stuff for granted. Make sure that every kick drum gets the attention it deserves, that every snare drum gets the attention it deserves. Don't take it for granted, because it'll sound messy. It'll be all over the place. It's all important to the song. Avoiding complicated beats. In your groove studies, don't avoid the complicated beats. Don't avoid playing something that's highly syncopated or has lots of linear patterns that are hard to follow. Go for it. Dig into it. Do it because it's hard. Do it because if you do the hard thing, your brain will become that much stronger and your playing will develop that much faster. And the last one on this list for groove studies was playing quarter notes on the kick drum through your fills. Maybe you want to keep that kick drum going through the fill and keep that groove bumping the whole time. But don't do it as a crutch. Like, some people will do it because they don't even realize they're doing it. That's the habit. That's the bad habit. Do it because you want that heavier kick drum to support the tom fills or whatever else you're playing through those phrases. So if you like this video and you want to watch more, check out this one suggested to you by YouTube, and check out this one suggested to you by Rhythm Notes. Please subscribe so we can help you level up your drumming and home recording today, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.